action and the remaining things are drug therapy. Now, by starting with inotropic agents, see digitalis glycoside, there are a lot of stories about digitalis glycoside. It is a glycoside, a steroidal glycoside, which is obtained from digitalis purpurea or digitalis lanata. Now that you have got two drugs are there, digoxin, digitoxin. Now out of the two, digoxin is preferred, not the digitoxin. You know the name itself says it is toxin. The reason why digitoxin is not preferred is it can cross blood-brain barrier easily because it has got little bit of hydrophobic nature. When it is crossing blood-brain barrier, it causes adverse effects. Now understand, see, the drugs has to act on heart. If they are acting other than heart, they will be causing adverse effects. That is the reason why digitoxin is not preferred, but digoxin is preferred. Now, all the three agents, cardiac glycoside, beta agonist, phosphodiesterase 3 inhibitors have got similar kind of mechanism of action. Let us see how it works. Imagine this one is a cardiac cell. Now, on the cardiac cell, you have beta receptors are there. You know, beta receptors on cardiac cell belongs to GS category. GS category, G protein coupled receptor. Right. Imagine this one is a T tubule of cardiac cell. T tubule of the cardiac cell, you have a beta receptor. Now, beta receptor, when it is activated, beta agonist means you are using an agent which will bind with receptor and shows intrinsic activity. Once it is activated, what happens? The activation results in the activation of adenylate cyclase that increases the amount of cyclic AMP. What happens with cyclic AMP? Cyclic AMP activates protein kinase A. Now, what is the job of protein kinase A? It will phosphorylate. In this case, in cardiac cell, it phosphorylates a calcium channel. So this protein kinase A activates this calcium channel. Calcium channel. Now, when this phosphorylation to calcium channel happens, it causes opening of the channel and calcium releases. Now, the released calcium has got multiple fates. It acts on a sarcoplasmic reticulum. It acts on sarcoplasmic reticulum. This is sarcoplasmic reticulum. Sarcoplasmic reticulum is internal store for calcium and it stimulates further release of calcium. So all the calcium will come into the cell. Now, once calcium gets into the cell, it causes the activation of actin myosin. We have discussed this already. We have discussed in the previous lecture. Actins are combined with troponin C and tropomyosin. The inhibitory action of tropomyosin is removed by calcium, and actin combines with myosin. The combination results in contraction. This is how contraction occurs, and this is how beta receptors will act. Now, what happens after this? Once calcium has shown its action, again calcium is taken back into sarcoplasmic reticulum. Not only that, it is also taken outside the cell with the help of certain exchanges. What do the exchanges do? There is an exchanger known as sodium-calcium exchanger. The job of the sodium-calcium exchanger is it sends out a calcium ion. One calcium ion goes out. At the same time, it brings back 3 sodium ions. Because it is exchanging sodium with calcium, it is known as sodium-calcium exchanger. Now, the working principle of sodium-calcium exchanger is based on sodium-potassium pump. Why? Sodium-potassium pump, what it does, it sends 3 sodium. 3 sodium is sent out of the cell. At the same time, 2 potassium gets into the cell. Now see, this is sodium-potassium pump. Sodium-potassium pump. Now how this pump is acting? Okay. Is it not visible? Okay. Okay. So when you see the mechanism of action, sodium-potassium pump acts by sending 3 sodium out of the cell and bringing back 2 potassium into the cell. Now, whatever the sodium sent outside, because sodium levels becomes high outside, there occurs a sodium-calcium exchanger. Sodium gets inside, at the same time calcium goes outside the cell. So both of them, the sodium calcium exchanger and sodium potassium pump are kind of interlinked. When sodium potassium pump is acting, then sodium calcium exchanger can act. The other thing, see, the cyclic AMP undergoes metabolism and results in AMP. And this metabolism takes place with the help of phosphodiesterase enzyme 3. So cyclic AMP is metabolized by phosphodiesterase 3 and converted to AMP. Now look at the all classes. Cardiac output enhancers, we have 3 classes are there: cardiac glycoside, beta agonists, and phosphodiesterase 3 inhibitors. We'll see one by one. Now see, cardiac glycosides will be acting here. Cardiac glycosides, like digoxin. Digoxin will be acting here. What it does, it binds with this pump and inhibits the functioning of pump. If this pump functioning is inhibited, what happens? It is coupled with sodium calcium exchanger. This exchanger will not work. What is this exchanger doing? It is taking calcium out of the cell. If this is not working, what happens? The amount of calcium inside the cell increases. What happens with the increased amount of calcium? It causes further actin-myosin combination and causes contraction. This is how cardiac glycosides will act. I'll repeat this again. The site of action for cardiac glycoside is sodium potassium pump. They inhibit the functioning of sodium potassium pump. If the functioning of sodium potassium pump is inhibited, the sodium gradient across the cell is not maintained. That means outside you don't have enough sodium. And sodium calcium exchanger works by taking outside sodium to inside and sending calcium outside the cell. If this is inhibited, sodium potassium pump is inhibited. Sodium calcium exchanger is also inhibited. If this is inhibited, calcium cannot move out, rather it stays inside and causes contraction. That contraction is nothing but inotropic action. Inotropic action means increasing force of contraction and causing increased cardiac output. So this is the mechanism of action of cardiac glycoside. Go to beta agonist. So beta agonist is a straightforward one. An agonist comes here and binds here. When beta agonists bind here, adenylate cyclase is activated, cyclic AMP generated, it activates protein kinase A. Protein kinase A phosphorylates a calcium channel, which opens calcium channel and releases calcium. Again, that releases more calcium from sarcoplasmic reticulum and causes actin-myosin combination, results in contraction, increases cardiac output. So this is about beta agonists. What is the third class? Phosphodiesterase 3 inhibitors. What is the job of this phosphodiesterase 3? This enzyme is responsible for the metabolism of cyclic AMP. Cyclic AMP is converted to AMP, adenosine monophosphate. By inhibiting this enzyme, what happens? Excuse me. The conversion of cyclic AMP to AMP will not occur. That means you are increasing the levels of cyclic AMP. Increased levels increases the activity of protein kinase A. Phosphorylates calcium channel, more calcium gets inside this. So all the three, the job is to increase intracellular levels of calcium, which increases positive inotropic action and causes increase in cardiac output. Now drugs, in case of cardiac glycoside, as I told you, you have digoxin and digitoxin are there. But widely used one is digoxin. Digitoxin has got a higher amount of adverse effects, like it can cross blood-brain barrier and binds with neuronal cells and causes neuronal kind of adverse effects. Digoxin also crosses, but the amount crossed is less. So digoxin is preferred. Now the next one, beta agonist. Beta agonist, the drugs which you have dopamine and dobutamine. Now listen here. See, both the drugs we read theoretically, but the use is very limited. The reason is, as I have explained already, increasing cardiac contraction increases workload and oxygen demand, which may further aggravate heart failure. The only condition is when systolic blood pressure is less than 85 mm of Hg. What is normal value? It is 120. Normal blood pressure is 120 by 80. 120 indicates systolic blood pressure, 80 indicates diastolic blood pressure. When the systolic blood pressure, instead of 120, if it is less than 85 mm of Hg, then only dopamine, dobutamine are used. Otherwise, they should not be used because they further aggravates the condition. Another one, phosphodiesterase 3 inhibitors. you have drugs like milrinone, enamrinone. These drugs, the job is they inhibit phosphodiesterase. Cell. Now, phosphodiesterase 3 inhibitors has got a unique mechanism of action. In cardiac cells, they cause contraction, inotropic action. Whereas in smooth muscle, the same agent will cause dilation. Hence, they are also known as enodilators. They have a unique name called as enodilator. Understand this word. Eno means causing inotropic action. In cardiac cells, they are causing enotropy. In smooth muscle cell, they are causing dilation. Hence, they are called as enodilators. Again, the use is very much restricted. As I told you, the major problem is they will aggravate heart failure. Out of the three agents, the widely used one is digoxin. Digoxin is used when there is a decompensated heart failure is there. If it is acute, digoxin is used, it immediately causes contraction, increases cardiac output. But there is an advantage with digoxin. The advantage is they cause vagus stimulation. Vagus stimulation. Now, vagal nerve is stimulated. Vagal nerve carries cholinergic neurotransmitters. When vagus nerve is stimulated, cholinergic system is stimulated. What is the effect of cholinergic system? Cholinergic is stimulated. The effect of cholinergic system is reducing heart rate. We'll see in detail when we read about atomic nervous system, but let me brief out the things. During daytime, we all have adrenergic stimulation will be high. That increased adrenergic stimulation causes increase in heart rate. During nighttime, cholinergic stimulation will be there. That is the reason why at night heart rate is low. So what is this digoxin is doing? By releasing calcium, it is causing forceful contractions, but it is reducing heart rate. So force of contraction is increased, but heart rate is reduced. So by what is happening, if heart rate is increased, you have more oxygen demand. If heart rate is reduced, oxygen demand is reduced. So the cardiac efficiency is increased at lower oxygen demand. That is the reason why digoxin are favorable drug. So out of these three classes in inotropic agents, only digoxin is preferred. But digoxin has also got a lot of adverse effects. Sodium potassium pump is present in every cell. So it could target every cell. So a lot of cells will get affected. But the major adverse effects are the major adverse effects. So the major one is all cardiac glycosides, they have a problem called as they are pro-arrhythmic. Pro-arrhythmic. Why pro-arrhythmic? Because of this action. See what happens, heart rate is getting reduced. If heart rate is reduced, see, you interfere with the rhythm of heart, that may cause any kind of arrhythmia. If heart rate is more than 100, it is tachyarrhythmia. If heart rate is less than 60, it is bradyarrhythmia. So by using digoxin, severe heart rate is reduced, that may result in bradyarrhythmia. So it is a kind of pro-arrhythmic agent, which is dangerous. Now, along with that, the common side effects are severe nausea and diarrhea will be there. Nausea, diarrhea, and some visual problems will occur. Visual problems, see, the proportion of digoxin crossing blood-brain barrier is low, but still it causes some visual effects. Visual effects like halos. Halo means a kind of circle behind the sun. When people look other people, they'll see a kind of circle behind their head. Halo means a kind of circle. Nothing is there. Not only this, one more peculiar side effect is there. It is called as xanthopsia. Everything appears yellow in color. That is because it is interfering with the color pigment cells in the neurons. So these are all CNS effects. So the major problem is with pro-arrhythmia. The other things with digoxin. The problem with digoxin is it can go and bind with plasma proteins. So if some other is also binding with plasma protein, displacement occurs, that means dosage adjustment. Diuretics, verapamil, all of them will go and bind with plasma proteins. So when verapamil and digoxin is given, digoxin will get replaced and you need to curate the dose. Dose has to be adjusted. The reason why I'm emphasizing on dose is, see, this is a very potent drug. The effectiveness of the drug starts with 0.5 to 0.8 nanograms per ml in plasma. So in the blood plasma, if the drug is in 0.5 to 0.8 nanograms per ml, it shows its effects. But when it is more than 1.2 nanograms per ml, it causes toxic effects. See, that is the reason why this drug is called as low therapeutic index drug. The drug safety is very less. You have 0.5 to 0.8 nanograms per ml in plasma, which effects, advantage effects. The moment it crosses 1.2 nanograms per ml, it shows toxicity. That is the reason why distillate dose has to be adjusted very carefully. So this is about inotropics. See, out of all the three inotropics, which the drugs which will increase cardiac output, the most preferred one is cardiac glycoside. The reason why cardiac glycoside is preferred is digoxin has got an advantage effect. The indirectly acting vagal stimulation is the advantage effect. By releasing calcium, it increases cardiac contraction, but it is activating cholinergic system, which reduces heart rate. Reducing heart rate means reducing oxygen demand. This is what is the advantage with digoxin. It has got multiple side effects. The major problem is it is pro-arrhythmia. It will result in arrhythmia because decrease in heart rate causes bradycardia. Nausea, diarrhea, common side effects, but visual effects such as like halos, causing halos, and it also causes a condition called as xanthopsia. Now, when you take this drug along with some other drugs like diuretics and verapamil, they also bind with plasma proteins. So displacement of drug will increases the dose of the drug. See, freely available drug is the one which shows action. When it is bound with plasma proteins, it doesn't show any action. Now, the problem with digoxin is it is a narrow therapeutic index drug. The effective effects will be seen when the concentration is 0.5 to 0.0 nanograms per ml. Toxic. So this is about inotropic agents or the agent which will increase cardiac output. As I told you already, all of them, they have a propensity to cause heart failure except digoxin. That is the reason why other two agents, beta agonists and PDE3 inhibitors, are not widely used. Beta 3 agonists are only used when the systolic blood pressure is less than 85 mm of Hg. Now, PDE3 inhibitors are also known as enodilators because in heart they cause positive inotropic action, in smooth muscle they cause dilation. I'll explain the mechanism when we see in autonomic nervous system. But remember, they are called as enodilators. So this is about enotropic agents. Now the next one, look at the remaining classes. In majority of the classes, you will be using ACE inhibitors, blockers. ACE inhibitors, angiotensin receptor blockers. So these drugs are very useful cardiac agents. The reason why